Hello, welcome to another episode of the Launch Sequence Podcast. This week is episode 47, getting close to 50, getting close to a year. It's pretty nice. This week, I've got a good friend, SaltEMike, another content creator for Star Citizen, a streamer, but also a YouTuber, and one of the, actually not really the saltiest, but, you know, it's in the name. How you doing, dude?
I'm good. Feeling pretty good. How about yourself?
I'm okay. I'm a little tired, to be honest. It's weird doing this. This is another one from Turkey. If you couldn't tell, for anybody who's watching, I'm still the jumping tomato. I still don't have a camera that's working. So SaltEMike has joined me actually with a little teaser of a new logo, and we are just talking logos today. But yeah, it's like 9 p.m. over here. It's different from how I normally do the podcast. It's weird. It's dark outside.
Yeah. Usually do it like afternoon time, right?
Yeah.
That's the last time we did it, I think.
Yeah, it's usually in the late morning for me. So I'm nicely refreshed. I've got some tea. It's sunny outside. Yeah, this is a weird one. But
I know you're like interviewing me in a way, but do you mostly do everything you do like morning, afternoon, and then have the rest of the day to yourself, or are you always working, or do you like set a schedule for yourself?
Well, first of all, feel free to ask any questions. I love it when people ask questions, but I usually work, it's like usually start around 8:39 and then go until like 6 or 7. Then like, yeah, last few hours of the day are usually for myself, unless I need to finish a video or something. That's usually how I do it.
Gotcha.
My problem is I don't take days off. Like I try to take Sundays off. Like I tell myself, hey, not doing anything on Sundays except for org stuff. But then the org stuff ends up like blowing up a little bit, so it ends up just being another work day.
Sure.
And yeah, my wife doesn't like that.
No, you need days. I don't have a day off either. The only day I take off of streaming is Monday, and the only day, but I put out a YouTube video that day, but then I started staying up late Sunday night and posting that, and then having Monday to myself because I work that day. I go deal poker on Monday. It's my most difficult day is Monday.
That's a terrible
I have
day.
to deal. It's Monday is my Friday, so it's like I'm done with the week when I get through Monday. But I just have to deal really difficult games on Monday and use my brain a lot. And yeah, I don't look forward to it. So if I'm really tired because I was working on a video all morning, it makes it even worse. So I just I stopped. Yeah. So I actually kind of have a morning off from content, at least on Mondays.
Wow, man, I hate using my brain. I gotta say though, I'm always impressed by people who are doing this part-time along with doing like YouTube and streaming stuff, because I mean, making videos is tough, and streaming, it takes a ton of time.
Yep.
But I don't feel like I would be able to hold down a job and also deal with the stress of that. I guess it depends on how seriously you take on the streaming and the YouTube stuff, but
yeah, like
a
I would say I'm full-time streaming and YouTube and part-time job. I go to work 3 days a week. They're kind of long days, and it's an hour away from home. So it's 2 hours of driving total each day, but it's
Gotcha.
I only have to do it 3 days a week. So I go to work Friday, Saturday, and Monday.
I see.
I'm trying to make it Thursday, Friday, Saturday, but
That's
it's been
doable.
difficult to switch that schedule for some reason. It's driving me nuts.
Okay, so we've got an interesting topic today. Obviously, Star Citizen has been in development for the longest time, and a lot of people have joined it over that amount of time, but a lot of people are just now jumping in, and a lot of newcomers, when they get in, they just care about what's there, what's right in front of them. It's the same with a lot of veterans too, but like that is a very different approach than, say, I or even you to some extent, or a lot of other people have, in that when they see something added to the game, they're more thinking about how it affects the game in the future. So today I kind of wanted to talk about that difference between what it means to view these features being added based on what they do for the game now and later.
Okay.
So I think the first I guess the best topic that we could start on with this is the coffee vendor. How did you feel
Sure.
about the coffee vendor?
Oh, at first I was like, "Oh my goodness, this is so ridiculous. Why are they wasting time on this?" And then when they finally said what it was like, "Oh, this is a new person to the company getting used to the engine and the AI and how it works, and it's just kind of like an entry level little job for them to get uh, associated with things." I was like, "Oh, okay, that makes sense." And then you heard Todd Pappy where he really wants to go with it, and I get more interested, but man, anything AI that like getting into the exact topic, I don't I look at it and I'm like, "Cool," but that's as far as I go because I know I won't experience it in the way they intend in the game
Right.
because we still have servers running at 3 FPS, like, that has not changed from the last in the last 2 years, 3 years, whatever. The servers still r are running incredibly slowly and have hiccups and have issues, and anything AI related it's for me, it's very difficult to get excited about, even though that's probably every monthly report, the best stuff
It's
there. The most
AI.
amount of work being done, the most information is out of that section
Yeah.
every time. But you never get to realize it, right?
Yeah. It's always so crazy. If you were to take the last 12 monthly reports and take all the AI segments out of them and read through that, you would think that this game had just the most fantastic AI in the world. And I get that's because, like you said, the servers can't handle it. A lot of this
Mhm.
code is probably not actually functioning in the game yet. They're just building it and testing with it. But man, that section of the monthly report is seriously good. And
Yeah.
AI is probably, like you said, it's probably the best example of the whole. Well, they keep adding these things into the game, and they don't really do much for us now. But like, we do need them. Like the bartender tech was, it was kind of viewed the same way as the coffee vendor. It was like, why are they spending so much time on this? And I'll admit, they spent a lot of time on it. But
Yeah.
their thinking is always that it's kind of the baseline of AI, and it'll be what really sets us up for success in the vendors in the future. Um,
Yeah, I mean, if people don't wanna play a game where they're, like where if people wanna play a game where they're not interacting with the NPCs whatsoever, which, if you've ever played a Chris Roberts game before, the bartender is, like, one of the more paramount characters in all the Wing Commander games. You got
mhm.
information from them and including the Privateer games. And, same with Freelancer. I never played Starlancer, so I don't know, but that character is like really important. So s- to buy into a Chris Roberts game or to buy into any game like this and expect the AI not to be something that they work on and NPCs be interactable, it's kind of silly.
Right. And would you expect them? How much of the AI would you hope to see? No, that's a little abstract of a question. I'm trying to wrap my head
Mhm.
around how far they need to get with AI before, say, beta. I guess they would be fully functional at beta level, right? Like if the
Oof,
game is
yeah, like that's just like betas. A traditional beta, you would just be cleaning up bugs at that point, right?
right.
So
Okay.
features would be fully in.
Yeah.
uh, with the ambition of Star Citizen, it would be quite a lot. But to I always how I look at Star Citizen, I don't look at it as released or beta anymore. I just look at it as like when it can become my daily driver. And for me, NPCs calling me on my Moby Glass occasionally, giving me missions, having some variety to them, having quest lines and story that they can tell. I can learn a story in the Star Citizen universe through them. That's when I would be pretty happy. So like we have all these mission givers, right? Those have basically just died, and I imagine that a lot of the stuff related to the work that's being done for like dynamic missions as well as these bartender and coffee vendor type AI are what should drive that experience that I'm looking for in the future. Like, the vendor that I go to and buy stuff from, I'm sorry, I'm fine with going to a screen. I don't need it to be an NPC there or
Hmm.
anything. But the storylines told in the game, absolutely, yeah. That's where I'd want to see it be
Yeah.
for for me to be happy.
So that's not something that annoys you, seeing the AI being worked on so much right now. Because I know some people are like, we don't need AI to do this stuff. Just build the game out and then bring in the AI to sort of be companions later.
Yeah, but what like it's the same thing with the planets, right? It's what is that artist supposed to do? What is that AI guy supposed to do? He's not going to code, a better flight mechanic for you. Like it's just not how it works, guys.
Oh,
So
I thought the AI guys made all the weapons.
oh yeah, right, of course. Like I think like I frequently get upset with the planet team and things like that because let's look at and this goes back to like we talked a little bit before the podcast about the mining video that I put out recently, right? If you look at ROC mining, the the Planet Tech team did an update and now there's rocks everywhere on certain moons that never had them before. And now when you go to look for rock minables, where are they? They're under those rocks. Like, how are you putting those things in without paying attention to the actual video game that we play? That I'll get upset about. I'm not getting upset about them working on things as long as they're not breaking the experiences so badly that it becomes unplayable or it becomes a feature that was so good like rock mining that is now until 317, which is now improved and they've done a lot of the fixes to those things and those issues, that got put on the shelf for probably a year, maybe longer, right? We don't need to put things on the shelf anymore. We should build off of them and make sure that every time we do an update that it's improving on experiences and not destroying them.
They've done a really good job, just going off of what you finished off saying there. They've done a really good job of not shelving things as much as they used to. I mean, it's still kind of early
Yes.
to say that, I guess, but I don't think anybody would have expected to see those derelict settlements go from concept art to white box in like a month and a half. That
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, that kind of blew me away. And we'll talk a little bit more about the whole location thing later, but they've definitely like from 2018, 2017 time when they would introduce something to us and then kind of we would see it like derelicts is a perfect example. They introduced derelicts to us way back with Planet Tech and then just left it until this year.
Yeah,
And
there was like a video of what was it? A like a hornet that was covered in roots or something I remember from way back and like that where's that? That got all scrapped, I guess, and they were like selling it like it was a thing that was coming and then now we have a whole studio that does it.
yeah, and they do a dang good job at it.
Oh yeah.
So another thing I think is a really good point to touch on with this whole view of what they're making for right now versus what they're doing for the future is dynamic events because they started doing dynamic events. It was about a year. It's like a little over a year ago, right? It was beginning of last year. Xenothreat, I think. 12
Dude, I feel
point
like it was 2 years ago.
12.3.12.1.
Was that when it was?
Yeah.
And now we're at 3.18, so that's 6 patches.
Yeah, yeah. So it was like the end of 2020, beginning of 2021.
Yeah.
And since then, we've only had three. And I don't think that's a small amount for a year, like, especially considering
No.
CIG, they've never done that before. But we keep getting sort of like, we'll get them on repeat. They'll run the event, test it, come up with some change, and then run it again. So, like, we got Xenothreat twice in a row. And I feel like some players might think to themselves, okay, this is getting a little old because you just keep running us through it. Whereas you could also look at it as, well, they're testing the dynamic events feature for the other stuff they'll bring in later. How do you feel about like how much do you think they can just keep running the same four events or so for in the game until they need to start introducing a lot more?
I mean, I don't know about you. I played the first Jump Town like crazy, and then they made some changes, and I didn't enjoy them, and I didn't play it at all after that. I'm done with Xenothreat. I'm Xenothreat is a story based like mission essentially. I can't keep playing the same story over and over again. It's a Xenothreat. It sounds like it's a foundation for things that involve large ships, and they can build upon it and and create variety from this. But I don't think that they can sell these as um, in-game events that are exciting anymore. Ninetales still needs a ton of work, and I think
Mm-hmm.
Ninetales could possibly be the best one they if it isn't so bad as it is now. There's a lot of like issues with it, where it just doesn't make sense, and it's really bad on the I think it's really bad on the pirate side, if I remember correctly. I didn't get up Unfortunately, I didn't get many opportunities to try it out. But Jumptown is one where at least your experience is different every time, because it's 100% player versus player,
Right.
where the other ones aren't as much, and they're more on rails, kind of boring after a while. So I hope the direction they go in is more Jumptown type scenarios. You could do it in a billion different ways now, and I think that is the type of dynamic event that they can do more often. Whereas the Xenothreat Ninetales one, if you're not going to tell me another story, I'm kind of over it at this point, personally. But that doesn't mean that they weren't fun and they're not good ideas, and that they're not foundations for future um, story mission type things or mission giver type stuff.
Yeah. Xenothreat definitely seems like a test bed for the capital ship combat. When they introduced it, they
100%.
showcased all that stuff. And I think in the last, just recently, in the March monthly report, they talked about how they just made some changes to fighters when they are going up against capital ships. So I'm guessing they're probably planning on having some more Xenothreat sometime soon. And
Yeah,
yeah, it'll be more of the same. I do hope, though, when we get Pyro, they do give us an extension of Xenothreat. Maybe it takes place over there.
that would be cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you follow them in there and destroy their home base or something.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
Just completely wipe out this historic gang out of nowhere.
Yeah,
We're just done with them.
it could happen. I mean, like, a game like this, I think, really does need a story arc, like this really macro kind of story arc. I think that would be really sick. And I've played a lot of MMOs, and that is a thing. Your story is told every day when you play an MMO, but then there's the story of the world around you that's much bigger than you, but that most of the players in your server come together to take part in.
Oh, yeah.
And I feel like this is a big part of that in this area, right? So
Yeah, that, like I said before this podcast, I never played an MMO before this, but that's
yeah,
one of those things that when I think of an MMO, I'm like, that's what I want. I want to know that there is, let's see, what was the game? Geez, I can't remember it, but Stellaris does this. Have you heard of that game?
oh, I'm obsessed with Stellaris,
Okay, yeah.
but it's not an
So
MMO.
no. But they have that view that shows all the different territories that everybody in the game
Hmm.
has, right? I always imagine being inside of that for an MMO and being able to watch, like, I get off the game, I go onto the website, and I can look at that map and see how it changes over the years, and like see the territories change as different, the game gets more popular, people push more
Yep.
towards this sector and that. That's the kind of stuff I want to see in the game. So I do really hope that we get some sort of a overarching storyline, whether it's the Vandal or
Yeah,
Insurgents or
Jin, it could be anything.
yeah. Um, in fact, I'm really hoping that they decide to just do multiple, obviously, of these different things. I mean, we've seen it in different MMOs, so I'm sure that's in the cards, but we know about the Kurthak that on the other side of the Jian, I believe, and the Vandal and the Terra and Soul conflict. There's just so much potential. So
Yeah. Like
yeah,
the stories that could be told in this game are very they're setting themselves up for success in so many ways. Uh and it's just a matter of doing it, and it's
yeah,
it's not going to be easy, that's for sure. But
yeah. The
they have the ability to have success for sure.
Not to get too off topic, but that kind of, when you come across those sorts of realizations, that gets on my nerves when people discount the game because it's taken a long time or it's promised, such crazy things. I feel like they sometimes deserve more credit for taking essentially an IP that never existed before and building it out so thoroughly for a game like this, because like you said, they've set themselves up. They haven't done the work to actually make it happen. But in terms of the gameplay, the philosophy of the game, the way that the ships work, the lore that they've made, they have set themselves up for some good stuff. And it's not. I don't think that's acknowledged enough.
Yeah, but I think it's super on topic actually, because as somebody who follows the game really closely, like you or me, sure, we could see some of those things, but the average player just wants to know how the game plays, right?
Yeah.
And it's a simple question to ask anybody, including us. What's Star Citizen Endgame? What's Star Citizen Midgame? What's Star Citizen Game? What is it? You none of us know, and I'm not even sure that the designer who's going to be designing Salvage gameplay has a good, clear vision of what the end game complete goal is. I think there's very few people that do, and I think that's kind of where the criticism of Star Citizen comes from everybody. Is you look at this thing, you see really expensive spaceships, and you see not a lot of progress towards a video game, and you see a lot of the extracurriculars that you're saying are really good, and they are,
I like
but
that
it's the
word for it.
yeah, it's the extracurricular stuff that those players aren't looking for those things necessarily,
Yeah.
and what they don't realize is they are, because that's what makes great games great. Uh, but most great games start with a foundation of a game. This one hasn't, and that's what's so different about this. And nobody understands it because it doesn't make sense.
Yeah. And
None of this makes sense.
I guess it's just human nature to not like think of those things and not try to look them up, because a lot of times there'll be like, hey, where is this, where is that, why is it this happening, and you start to look into it a little bit more, and you do learn more about those extracurriculars.
Yeah, and I think the problem is that because they don't have a game that they're enjoying, they're not doing that extra work,
Right.
because why would they? There's no reason to understand it if all you do is pop in game, check out the most recent patch, or check out your new ship, or check out the new location for a few minutes, and then kind of put the game down. That's what I imagine that 95% of players do, is that they're kind of like, yeah, okay, cool.
Mm-hmm.
Wait for the next patch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I don't blame anybody for even doing that. In fact, I encourage it. That's why we go through the day-to-day stuff, so that we can just give that information out when we
So
find it.
others don't have to.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly.
um but there is still something to be said about how nope, I lost my train of thought. um
Doing the research.
well, not necessarily doing the research, but just understanding that there is more to come. When you look at something that's being added to the game, like for instance, the river is a really good example. It's on its face value, it's really dumb that we have four massive planets, and they've got this amazing tech to create rivers, and they're bringing it in, and we get one river. And it's like, okay, that's like, what's the point? If I was just a casual player who was looking into the next patch, and I heard that we were getting rivers, and then I went and I looked into the patch, and I asked somebody, I'm like, oh, what planets were they added to? And somebody's like, oh, there's one river, it's on Microtech. I'd be like, that's dumb. Like, why would they do that? But it does take a little bit extra effort to find that answer. Obviously, they have a reason for doing that one river, but a lot of times that obvious answer is just never shared. It's never found. Um,
Do you know what the problem is? I think with that a lot
hmm,
is that most video games, if they added a river or added river tech, it would just be one line in a patch note. But with Star Citizen, because it's visually appealing, and they've put themselves in a situation where um, the visual appealing nature of the game is still what sells the game, and not the actual gameplay mechanics or the systems that sell the game.
mhm.
Because obviously there's the major foundations of the game aren't there yet, so they're not working on the systems as much as we all would want them to. So how do they sell the game? Is through its visuals. So wow, that river looks really good.
Yeah.
We can't put a bunch of them in because the servers can't handle it, or whatever reasoning for them not doing it. I actually don't know the reasons why. I feel like they've said why they're only doing one for now, maybe just testing reasons, whatever, doesn't matter. But they made this big grand entrance of one river, and that creates the issues here in a lot of ways. is they make it out to be a thing that it's bigger than it is, and then everyone looks at it and is like, it's just a river. Like, it's just a river. Who cares?
Right.
Okay, there might be a harvestable nearby. Wow. You know, there might be a mineable. I think I saw in a morphologist video there was quantanium at the river. Who cares? It doesn't matter for your average player. And I think that's still kind of staying on topic with things. It's
Oh
like,
yeah, that
this is what's
is.
in front of me versus, what are rivers going to do in the future? Man, they have so much potential in the future, right? It gave them foundations for, um, water lighting and other things, right? And
Lava.
then also lava. And then on top of that, animals are going to have to come to these locations to eat and drink. So if you are searching for those in the future, you'll know where to find them, right? There's layers upon layers upon layers of this stuff. But there's no reason to talk about those things until they're happening.
Hmm.
But CIG has a reason. It's because they have to continue to sell the project, or it stops. Like,
Right.
there's nobody would disagree with me on that thing. They have to keep selling things. This is the only way they can do it because they don't have a game to sell. So
Hmm.
they're selling the visuals of it. And we talked about this before the podcast. Man, do they have a great canvas to build a game on. Like, it's incredible. So we all know that, right? And it's
Yeah.
just,
Yeah. And that's
but it
it's
causes problems as well, right? For
yeah.
people, they just don't get it, and I don't either sometimes.
Well, CIG is, they're celebrating what what makes them I guess
Unique.
in part way money, but also yeah, and what makes them push forward. We want to, what the heck, Jesus, that's a big bug flying around. We want to play a game, but they're making it. They're celebrating the development, right? So,
Yeah.
like you said, why would we care? You guys got all excited for this river, and then you just added it. And it's just a small river. It doesn't do anything. But they're over here like, oh yeah, we got this tech done. Woo! And like,
Yeah, because that's them celebrating some hard work that they did, right?
yeah,
Like, do you watch sports? Do you watch
uh,
any
I
sports?
I used to.
Okay. This is kind of perfect. So if you're not really into sports, do you get bothered by celebrations from players sometimes? Like, they're over the top?
Yeah,
Do you look at them and be like, "Wow, that's ridiculous. It's over the top"?
yeah.
I watched and this is perfect for this. Is I watched I think it was like a football documentary of some kind, and one of the players like celebrated super hard and was like, "Do you know why I celebrate like that? Because do you know how hard it is to score in the NFL? Do you know how hard it is to do these things? Do you know how much work I put in every day
Hmm.
and to succeed in this? That's why I'm celebrating." Those guys probably busted their butts to get that river out, and they wanted to celebrate it, and they wanted to share it with us, and they were super excited. But the thing is like, I wasn't in the office working hard with you.
Right.
So it's hard for me to appreciate the work that you put in that I never saw. Even
Yeah.
though we kind of saw a preview of it and then now we see where it is now, but I think my point is getting across is like, we're not meant to understand those things, and it's CIG, like, sharing development is not something I'm interested in. I'm interested in the game. I always have been. And I do think like them sharing the development process is something that is a positive, but also a negative because most people don't care.
Yeah. But
And I don't want to speak for most people because people usually freak out when I say things like that. Like, I care.
I
It's like, great, dude. But again, I don't think most people care. I just don't. But that's just my opinion. I don't care.
well, I think there's a gradient, right? Like,
Yeah, sure.
so
Absolutely.
they care, they know all the hard work that went into it, so they're more excited about it, in juxtaposition with the person who has heard absolutely nothing about Star Citizen, knows nothing
Mhm.
about the standard for video games, and would assume that everything that they've done is standard and natural. So I feel like there's a gradient in between that of people who, at some point, you have enough respect or excitement for what they're doing and the hard work they're putting in to believe in the project enough to stick around, unless you just are playing just to play. But like for me, for instance, I don't really enjoy playing the game that much right now. Partially that's because it's just not a great time for me to be playing video games. I don't have much time, but also I just don't have that much fun with it. I have way more fun looking at what they want to do, because I have a lot of um, uh, I have a lot of expectations in
Sure.
that come from some of the stuff they've already done. Like, I know a lot of people don't like the medical system. I think they did pretty decent on it. I think the basic mining loop is pretty good. I think what they've said about deep space probing sounds pretty good, and resource management sounds good. So, like, the way that they're developing this stuff and the hard work they've shown us that puts that stuff that much closer to us makes me more excited for the project. And I think, like you said, that's part of the good side of it being so open. Is that, like, they can really capture
Exactly.
people who are interested in that stuff.
Yeah. But then, like, even going back to what I said before, is while they're being open, you still have no idea how their systems work. Like, a lot of games, even ones that are coming that are in alpha, they're more simplistic. Like, every game imaginable is more simplistic than Star Citizen is aspiring to be. So it's always going to be easier for them to share their development than Star Citizen is.
Hmm.
But new refinery ship comes out. I have no idea how that's going to work. So I don't. I'm expected to spend $130 on something without ever knowing how it's going to
Is it
work, right? And
130
that's where they
bucks?
do. Yeah,
Wow.
which is, I think that's a good price
Yeah.
for, compared to a lot of their other things. I would have thought it would have been like 300 for how valuable it might be in
It's
game and useful.
yeah, it's much cheaper than I saw people guessing.
Yeah, but even then, I mean, it's $130 for Spaceship. It's not
Right.
cheap. That's
Yeah.
insane. And
Yeah.
and we're just conditioned to these
It's
things at
twice
this
the
point.
price of a full game.
Yeah, right? So that's nuts. But the idea of me not knowing at all how refining will work on a spaceship and not knowing the overall grand design of refining in the first place, it's a weird thing and doesn't make much sense. Like, if I look at a game that you can make some comparisons to, like Ashes of Creation, they've kind of laid it all out on the table of what their design is going to be, at least a macro design of how things are going to work, and then you could see them working towards that. With Star Citizen, I can't see them working towards anything because I don't know what the end goal is,
I would
if that
say
makes sense.
they're probably pretty outdated by now, but like those what engineering documents that they used to make, I'm
Oh, they're
imagining they're
incredibly outdated.
still kind of headed in that direction though. Like, there's, because some of the stuff that they do seems to correlate with some of the stuff they're saying in there.
Yeah, some, but not all. Like,
Yeah, not
but
not everything.
they stop making those and they don't cover everything.
Right, which
Like,
annoyed
I
me.
think the refueling one, if you look back at that, I think most of those changes happened in the most recent in 317, right? With their rebalance of ships, and we're going to take away the fuel scoops from certain
Right.
ships.
Yeah.
All that stuff finally happened in this patch, right?
Yeah.
So it was a good idea, but I think we've lost that macro view in a lot of ways, and that's the thing that I struggle with most with Star Citizen now, is it's hard to give feedback, and it's hard for me to get excited about something I don't understand, because I don't understand where it's going in a lot of ways. Like, I know we're going to have base building, I know we're going to own something on a planet, um, I know there's going to be a dynamic economy, I know there's going to be a dynamic mission system, but do I really know how any of it's going to work and how it's all going to tie together? I don't, and I nobody does. So it's tough. We can guess based off of this conversation over here and that over there. But that's my biggest struggle with the game at the moment, or the project, I should say, at the moment. And that's why I focus so much on, like, hey, what's in front of me right now in the game? And I'm going to focus my energy on providing feedback on, like, hey, this is fun. This isn't. This is why. And that's it.
Yeah. And that's important.
Yeah. Because it's exhausting otherwise, I
Yeah.
think.
And that really, I think, sums it up, to be honest, is yeah, we know, like, and that's something I think I don't think about as often, because I'm very much, I'm a cheerleader of, hey, here's what's coming up, here's where this is headed,
Hmm.
this is what this system will mean in the future. But I think I need to spend more time thinking about the fact that, like, most of the time people already know that. It's not
Yep.
necessarily that they don't, they just don't understand how the details are going to make that happen, and those details drive you nuts. I mean, I'm always thinking about how the heck is data running going to work.
We should know by now.
Yeah.
That's like that's where I get upset, is like, we should know by now. if somebody spent like here's like I look at them and I feel like at times they should have a moral obligation to be clear about what these things are. If you're going to sell something, I should have uh, a somewhat clear picture
Like a
with a
white paper.
caveat of yeah, like we're with a caveat of this may change, these things may change, but this is the general direction of where we think we're going. And I mean, they've shared that information at some point somewhere, but it was how many years ago and all these things. And I feel like as a like you and I only exist because they're so bad at putting these things in one clear place
Hmm. That's the
for everybody to find that information. That's
that's
the only reason we exist right now.
it's the forever problem they have. It's why every single week Jared has to get on Star Citizen Live and say, this is somebody's first episode, or every single time a question is answered for the 10th time, for all of us
Yep.
who watch every week, it's because there's people who are wanting to know. And like, I will make a video and then a year and a half later, I'll be like, okay, it's time to make an update on that video because people don't go back to watch those videos. And Star Citizen is
Exactly.
such a
And you're
long-term thing that like no people are missing everything.
I mean, let's look at there's the how many views do you get on a video on average? You don't have to answer that. It's more of like a rhetorical question, right?
Hmm.
It is nowhere near the size of the active player base, and it is nowhere
Oh
near
yeah.
the sideline player base. Not even close. Like the sideline player base that is keeping like a very distant eye, whether they're making fun of the project or kind of interested but not willing to jump in, is absolutely massive, right? How many of those people are watching your videos? And I think your videos are fantastic, and I think you do really well, but how the reach just isn't there.
Yeah.
And their inability to put something in a clear and easy way to understand, especially when you're asking people to spend as much money as they are on certain things, it's tough. And I think a lot of the frustration from myself and from anybody else that ever gets frustrated with the project just comes from that um difficulty understanding. Like I find myself just asking, instead of getting mad now, I just ask, hey, why? Why is that prioritized over this? Why are you working on this versus that? Why is this bug still happening? I've just been asking that more and more and more. And I've learned more about like game development through it, which I'm not really interested in learning about game development, but I just want to know why my current experience couldn't have been better today, and then why it can't be as good as I feel it could be in the next patch, right? And most of those things are answered by, well, we just got too many people on Squadron 42 and not enough on Star Citizen, right? And that's usually
Straightforward
the
answer.
answer.
Here's your
Yep. And
yeah. Leave your
there's your
message after the beep.
yep, and that's pretty much it. But in general, I think that's where a lot of the people who just don't understand and just get upset are coming from. It's very difficult to understand.
Right.
And no matter how much you or I try to explain what's going on right now, we're never going to reach the audience that that is we may, but it's hard, it's very difficult to reach the audience to get that clear, get the air clear.
Yeah, there are not many people in the Star Citizen community who can actually get a message like that out to that many people.
No.
Yeah, we're a drop in the bucket, and
Yeah.
that's unfortunate. And it's probably how it's going to be for a long time, if forever. Um, yeah,
It's really good to see Level Cap, Jack Frags, and these other people showing that this game that is a scam overall is what people think, and like I would imagine is a message that's shared out there in the gaming world a lot.
hmm.
That there is this thing that you can put on your client and you can enjoy.
Yeah,
However long they may have enjoyed it or enjoy it, here and there, it still is something that it is special in its own way or whatever, right? They were able to make something special out of this game, and that has to have something to say, right? Like that's so important,
hmm,
is people like them coming in and being and showing off the game to an audience that probably sat on the back burner, not knowing much about it or knowing the things that maybe the company wouldn't want those people to know, right? Like
Yeah.
is like, just lies or whatever, right?
Yeah. Let's be honest. Most of the people who will end up playing this game probably still haven't heard of it.
Hmm.
So like, there's a huge market of people out there who are either heard the name in passing or something, and for like people like Jack Frags and Level Cap Gaming who have millions of viewers, that's a lot different than us putting a video out like that.
Yeah, and I think you'll get there one day. I don't know if I will, and I mean that honestly, and not just blowing smoke. I think you're really really good, and you're gonna go places. It's just
That would
w-
honestly, if
we're
there was a
we're
million
in this
people,
timeline that's tough.
if my
Yeah.
videos got served to a million people, I'd probably panic every time I hit publish.
You'll be all right.
Oh,
You'll get. I'm sure if you got the views that you got now on like your first couple videos, you would have had the same feeling,
oh
right? It's
yeah,
like, oh
yeah,
my God,
yeah, that's fair.
15, 20, 30,000, 40, 100,000 people are going to see this video.
Yeah,
It's scary, right?
you
But
you
now
grow into
you
it.
do it and yeah, you grow into it.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like I would have pooped my pants if I knew 300 people would be watching me,
Yeah. Yeah, the stream thing is crazy. It's like when you end up getting rated, I mean,
Oh
you
yeah.
get a lot of viewers, but like sometimes I'll get rated by somebody with a bunch of viewers, and for a couple of minutes there'll be like 300-400 people, and I'm like, okay,
Eric Black rated me a couple days ago.
who?
So I was at 2,500 viewers. He streams overnight.
Holy crap!
Yeah, and that used to scare me, and now it's just like it's whatever. It happens sometimes here and there,
Wow.
and yeah, I mean, I don't know. I feel like the thing to do then is just look around your room and be like, I'm here by myself. It's not what it actually is, and then it's okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's no different. Those people being there is no different than the your core community being there. It's the
Right.
same
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. I like to turn the view count off. Sometimes that helps.
I always turn it off. I never have it on.
Oh yeah.
I see it after the stream. Yep.
All
Yeah,
right.
because I don't know how you feel, but it affects me negatively and positively,
Oh
and
yeah, for
uh,
sure.
yeah, definitely.
Look around your room and imagine the viewers in their underpants. That'll do it. That'll get you right in the mood to perform for 2,500 people.
Exactly.
um, so getting back to Star Citizen and what we were talking about with oh gosh, it's like a very specific line, but you said something about the gameplay and how the
Mhm.
detail wasn't there for us to really know where it was going. One thing I really think we should touch on is how much the conversation has changed from 2 years ago till now. Like the monthly report in the features segment,
Oh yeah.
I think it mentioned 4 different career paths. It was like refueling, engineering, salvage, and I can't remember what the fourth thing was. What was it? I think it might have just been repair, which is kind of a cop
Did you
out.
say
But
engineering yet?
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
But just like those types of things being talked about in line with the fact that a lot of people are now having discussions more about PvP or combat balance or the economy rather than like, oh, how many 30Ks did we have today? Or which planet can I land on so I don't fall through? Like the conversation's definitely changed when it comes to that idea of people talking about playing the game versus what's going to be in the future.
But not just from us. Like it's from them too. And that's what's really exciting, and I feel like people are seeing, like, I see this in my YouTube comments, because let's say 2 years ago I wasn't happy with where I thought things were going. I think some of the things that we're getting now I think should have been prioritized then,
Yeah.
but there's probably some back end reasons as to why they weren't, like work on certain persistence things, whatever things that I wouldn't understand and probably didn't at the time. And I think what people are seeing now is that I'm a little bit more positive and happy and okay with the things being the way they are now, because I see that they're going in the direction that I am happy with. They're focused on the things that I want. One of the things that I think is the worst thing that they ever did, but it is what they did and there's nothing they can do about it, is sell spaceships. that should be one of your main progression paths. It was in every other Chris Roberts game, right? Was you moved your way up to some really cool ship or whatever, and that is all gone, right? Some of you already have the end game ships. It just is what it is, and there's nothing that can stop that anymore. It's a ball that's been rolling down a hill for 10 years, and there's no stopping it. So the influx or the introduction of reputation seems like it's something that is going to gamify that progression and uh and replace that situation that we all I think assumed would have not been the way it is in 2022. I
Hmm.
don't think that should if you asked me in 2013 if I was going to be buying the Expanse in 2022, the first refinery spaceship, I would have said you were insane, right? So the that whole aspect of things is weird, but the the idea of them going in the direction and focusing on all of the smaller gameplay systems that can turn into something that's playable-ish now is where I'm happy with that. That's all I'm looking for. I am very comfortable waiting another 10 years for Star Citizen. The finished Star Citizen, the Kickstarter project, all the stuff that they said would be in the game. As long as the experience that I have um, in the somewhat near future, I feel like I can come to most days or daily and have something to do and have something to look forward to doing.
Right.
And I think a lot of the stuff they're doing now is leading into that direction. Is I feel like me by myself or me and my friends can probably go into the game and start working towards a goal that the game is determining that goal. I don't think I can't I can't be the one to make up the gameplay every day. It's been too long for that. It's
Yeah.
time for them to, and I think that they're moving in that direction. And
Yeah.
it's pretty exciting.
There's I put out a video. It's still exclusive to supporters, but I should be releasing it later this year publicly. And it talks about what I think is the most important thing that they could possibly do in the game right now. Not server meshing or Gen 12 or like any of the big things, but I think they should focus on building missions because like you said, they've been adding these different like little features here and there. I mean, I remember when we couldn't even send money to each other. God, it was awful. But like,
Yeah.
we have things like that. We have things like refueling and docking and medical systems and player transfers and backpacks and all of these little things that make a game, but we're still playing in a sandbox game, so it feels like they're not there. And if CIG could just start building more missions out that force us to use those features, I think people would start to realize that there's more going on in the game than what they're feeling. And like you said,
Yeah.
if the game could just come up with those reasons and those goals and those scenarios to make us do that, I think it could feel more like a game than it does right now.
Okay. Yeah, and I just think there is already a lot that's going on in the game. It's just the game hasn't given you a reason to jump in and want to do them outside of the hey, I want to check this out today,
Right.
right? I want to see how this works. Like I don't find myself absolutely needing to jump into the game and grind out like listen, I love grindy games. I love that. So this is my mentality on things. A lot of people don't like this. But for me going into a game and needing to work towards a certain type of armor or find myself this certain item or whatever, right? That's what I love about video games. I mean, while we were prepping and before we got into the prep call for this podcast, I was just shooting rabbits in New World because you got to kill a bunch of them and you might get a chest that gives you more inventory space in a town that you live in.
Poor rabbits.
That's it. That's all it is. I killed 300 rabbits.
Oh my
I still haven't gotten the chest.
What kind of chest is this? You gotta
And
sacrifice the blood of the bunnies and
it's a very
Dang.
important chest.
All right, I guess so.
But yeah, it's a big deal. So, but the thing about it is that's not good game design, I don't think. It's very boring. I shouldn't feel like I have to do it, but I did. Because the item at the end is so good.
The
And
bunnies
that
made
reward
me.
at the end the reward at the end feels good, but I think it's the game designer's job to make that a little bit more interesting. And I think New World kind of missed the mark on that one a bit.
Hmm.
But and a lot of games do, right? A lot of games have that like repetitive, boring stuff. And so far, if you look at least Star Citizen mining, even though we go and mine like the same thing over and over again, and the experience is pretty much the same every time because of the way mining like the way quantanium is or whatever, right? And how easy it may be. The idea of like having to pay attention and the idea of not being that super easy, like it's tactile, I guess is the word I'm looking for. It makes it more interesting just by default there. And if they add a few more layers on top of it, I think that those type of grinds could be really interesting and enjoyable. And you shouldn't have to do them, but maybe you want to do them because the reward at the end is worth it. And we don't have that yet, but we're kind of getting there. They took certain things out of shops, then you have reputation come in, and then all these things start to tie together. It's just a matter of when that actually happens. And the first step is an economy, I think, and we have that starting in 317. That's mega exciting.
Yeah, it's there's a few things that have been added in the last year or so that add on to that what you're talking about. We get the inventory, um, the economy, like you said, is starting up here. A couple more game loops, and gosh, finally a selling feature. Holy crap!
Yeah.
That combination of things definitely is going to help. What would you say then about like so if salvage was added this summer? What would you need to be included with that to give you that sense of, hey, I want to jump into the game to actually do salvage, and not just because I want to like test it out and see how it is, but because it's a job and I have something to work towards? Is that just like a reward you can buy, or is it a certain experience, or what would you want to come with that?
Well, I think salvage could is very it's one of the most important features in the game
Yeah.
because the and it's very much like a jump town type scenario where and this was described on this week's SCL in a very simplistic form, but when you kill a player or you blow up their ship or an NPC or whomever, what's the next step here is I want to see what's inside. I want to see what dropped in there. Every ship that you explode becomes a miniature, it's a new version, so it's not derelict, but it becomes a derelict in a way. And what's inside, what am I going to find? Is the person still alive in there? Or are they not? So on and so forth, right? And I think just in the most simple form, salvage for me is not coming in. I think you and I may have had this conversation on Twitter a little bit. It's hull stripping. That's what we have coming. And is hull
Right.
stripping cool? Absolutely. But for me, salvage becomes salvage. I think it was Astropub and I had like an argument about this on Twitter. For me, salvage isn't salvage until I'm taking a component out of your ship that I just blew up, and it's something that improves my experience in the game. So I blew up this NPC. I know these NPCs run like these really great quantum drives. I go and search out those NPCs. I find them, blow their ship up, go and salvage their quantum drives, and now I have a bunch of those to work from.
Okay.
That's kind of what I want from salvage. But the whole stripping scenario that they mentioned of like I blew up your ship, but I took some damage. I go over, I scrape yours, I add it to mine. That's kind of cool. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, I thought that was a pretty cool application. So it sounds like
Yeah.
your for you, salvage wouldn't be the end goal. It'd be kind of like a puzzle piece, just something that fits into the gameplay that you're already trying to enjoy.
Yes, but they could take it like way further than that. Like that for me, that's the bare minimum. I need
Hmm.
to go in and be able to find something special inside of a ship. Whatever it is, it could be a component, it could be something, but I need to find something in it. Um the where they could take salvage and make it like a true career is with reputation, with companies, with um a planet requesting certain things or planets looking for certain components or certain materials, right? Where do you get those materials? Well, man, you get them from salvaging things, right? And then You become more renowned through those with your reputation, and through that, it unlocks doors and doors and doors into other things, and that's where I think it can get really special. Is uh, one of the things about being an MMO player is in a lot of MMOs you are the hero. Everyone is the hero all at the same time. It's very weird, but in this game we're not. We're living in this world, and we're basically a speck of dust, is what it feels like. So how do we impact the universe? How are we the hero? We have to feel like the hero sometimes.
Right.
Otherwise, it's not going to be very fun, I don't think, at least. So, um, is there a way to work towards that or something? Like that's where I see Salvage in every detailed, at least, job that's possible in the game, or career path being a thing. Like I feel like other people should be, let's say, Tomato, you're the best salvager in the game, or one of the better ones, and I'm a miner, or I'm a PvP, or I'm somebody that could, you have something that I need, right? Because you worked in that direction and I worked in my direction. We don't have skills in Star Citizen, but there needs to be situations where you've unlocked something that I haven't had time for, or I haven't learned how to, and we can help each other. And I think that's what could make the game really nice and really, really enjoyable. And again, that's a thing that I think a lot of people don't like, but that is what I look for in games. Is I applied my skills to this, my skill points to this thing, and you applied them to that thing, but us together are really powerful.
That is one of the biggest reasons I like Star Citizen. I'll give you, I'm gonna tell you something I really, really want to be true with the game. It might be a hot take. I don't know. I guess you can tell me. I full-heartedly believe that they should be building these game mechanics with a base level, obviously, that everybody can try out. But as it gets more advanced, I think they should actually be making them less enjoyable for everyone and more kind of hardcore, to the point where
Yeah, absolutely.
the way I see it, if everybody enjoys doing everything in this game, then the game's
Nobody
not going to
does
be great.
anything.
Yeah, everybody's going to be like, oh, I'll mine today, and then I'll salvage tomorrow, and then I'll go do some dogfighting the day after that. Like, you have to make it so that people keep saying like, oh, medical gameplay sounds terrible, I don't want to do that. It's like, that's exactly what they need. They have to do
Yeah.
that so that there are
Yeah.
medics.
I don't listen. I PvP sometimes, and man, have I gotten some insane enjoyment out of it. I don't see myself doing it daily or regularly at all. And when it comes down to a scenario where, all right, guys, like, um, our land over here is getting attacked. Well, I'm not gonna jump into a fighter and defend it. I'm gonna
Right.
find the people that are the best at it. Why wouldn't that scenario be different in any other thing? I mean, I think that's the thing that Star Citizen sold us on, was that everything was going to be skill based. An Aurora pilot that is really good should be able to defeat a Hornet pilot that isn't, right? And it's sort of gotten away from that a little bit more recently, and I think that's okay too, because there needs to be that um easy to learn, difficult to master scenario, and I think that that's what you're trying to convey out
Yeah.
of what you said, right? And I think that that's really important. And like, going back to me discussing mining, it's really easy now. Now, where do we get that difficult to master? Like, let's start
Right.
building that part out. I don't think we should be doing it anytime soon. I think they should focus on the, um, easy to learn with many other game mechanics and careers until then. But we have to do the difficult to master sooner than later as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah. Um, what was the oh gosh. No, I just forgot my train of thought again.
Hmm. I don't know if I can help on this one.
Yeah, no, I lost it. I was thinking about, you mentioned what was it, the profession you were just talking about?
Salvage.
Salvage, yeah. Nope, I lost it. All right, let me wrap back around. So this goes back to kind of what players have been saying, or rather our main topic, which is the game we're playing versus the game being made. A
Mhm.
lot of the things that we're seeing are being done to make the game that's currently being played easier. We've seen like fixes, like 30K fixes, some combat stuff happened. What else is going? Oh, the ATC hotkey. Like actually, in this patch in 3.17, we've seen quite a few things. And like you said earlier, CIG has really started to take this sort of approach that, hey, we're trying to make the game right now better to be played. And that, in my opinion, is catching up to the marketing, right? Because the marketing is always selling this incredible looking future scenario.
Oh yeah.
Um, do you, I guess, how much effort do you think they should continue to keep putting into this, into making the game playable right now? Because I think everybody's expecting it to kind of break pretty horribly once server meshing starts to be implemented. Are you Do you think that they should be doing this now, wait until like a few years after server meshing to really double down on this optimization? What do you think?
No, I think that they okay with certain things like your basic day in and day out experiences. They absolutely need to focus on those because, like I said earlier, I truly believe the 10-year from now, like Star Citizen actually being finished thing. Like I don't think it's going to be within the next few years. So the current experience being enjoyable has to be something that happens. It has to be a focus for them. They can't keep riding this forever. At least not for me. Okay, for me, I'm done after another year or two of this. Like I can't do it anymore. Like you said, like the game isn't enjoyable to play, but that's the only thing I care about. So I can't do it anymore after a while. So for me, if the focus isn't on quality of life, often within reason, of course, I'm done. So that's how I look at it is things like the little button to land is the type of stuff I'm talking about. I'm not necessarily talking about, hey, fix the servers and just make them work because that's unrealistic, right? Or hey, completely redesign this game mechanic because that's unrealistic. But the little things like, hey, there is this severely broken ship and all you need to do is change number and it is just that, it literally is, and for some reason they just don't do it. um the that's the kind of stuff I'm talking about, right? Is and there is some major uh connection that is just starting to happen, and I don't know who it is, what team, why it's happening. I think it was probably the team that we saw on ISC most recently, the live
DEPU?
experience
Oh,
team or whatever.
no, yeah,
Right?
that was player
The play
experience. Yeah.
testers. Yeah, player experience team is they're starting to get feedback in the patch and then fixing it in the next one, or even fixing it in that patch way more quickly and way more
Yeah.
um, normally than before. And those are the kind of things that they are focusing on, and I think that is absolutely essential for the longevity of the project because I'm assuming I'm not the only one that feels this way. Is I just don't have the patience to play a game like this anymore, and I don't. And the thing is once you lose interest in something, you're gonna find interest in another thing, and you're not gonna come back. It's gonna take a lot more to come back than it would have been to spend a little time and make the experience not so bad.
Yeah. So I don't think anybody can deny that they've obviously taken a turn and started to shift more
Absolutely.
towards that, making it more playable. Do you think they could fall into a trap of getting too comfortable, just building, getting too
No.
good at optimizing a game in development and just writing this?
No, because they're first off, I think this is like one of the stupidest things imaginable to do. Like nobody would be dumb enough to do this,
That's
right?
the big. It's the
Is
big comment. Ah, they've. It's development as a service. What's to stop them from doing this forever?
Well, yeah, I mean, and to be fair, I think that that's kind of a fair criticism. Like, if you were in Chris Roberts and Sandy Roberts and Aaron Roberts' position, wouldn't you sat around the dinner table like and maybe be uh, this could be our career for the rest of our lives. This is pretty awesome. Like, and I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with that thinking. Like, I imagine that conversation happened,
Yeah,
right?
but
But I don't
look at
think that they're doing it on purpose. Like, that's the thing, is they're not doing this on purpose. Chris Roberts isn't the guy who screwed up, you know, like somebody told is making server meshing. Chris Roberts isn't, right? So the people who screwed up the timeline of how easy this would be or how possible it would be wasn't him. And essentially, you're killing the messenger when you're getting mad at Chris with those things. So the idea behind that is, and let's get real here. Who showed server meshing in 2019? Said, or the 2021 CitizenCon. It wasn't the people that were talking about it before. It was a team in Montreal which wasn't a part of anything when server meshing was first being kind of talked about, worked on, discussed, tested, right? It was a totally different group. So I think I'm not in necessarily the wrong being like, hey, somebody in the UK studio may have tried and it didn't work out so well. So now we're going to bring this other team in and see if they can do it. And it sounds like that they're having a little bit of a better time, or they're working in tandem. Something changed. Okay. That's clear. And I just think that we're killing the messenger when we get mad about those things. And it just doesn't make any sense. Like, I don't think that this game's is in development forever on purpose.
Right.
I
Yeah.
think it's just too big to manage in a lot of ways.
Mhm.
And also, the prioritization on Squadron 42 is very difficult because you don't see the progress. There's probably a lot of progress being made there, but because we don't see the progress being made in Star Citizen, it's incredibly frustrating, and people like me start losing their minds. Because I do
I'll
at times. Like, it's so frustrating.
I'll say this. I believe that the replication layer was a new addition to server meshing as of the last couple of years, the last 2 or 3. So
Yeah, and I think it's a Montreal thing. I don't think it was a thing that was. I think it was we tried something and it didn't work, and now we had to kind of figure it out again, and that was the idea. And it seems that like it might work.
Mhm.
There's nothing wrong with that. Like, it may sound like I'm saying that in a negative way, but there's nothing wrong with that.
I mean,
It's just
it's all
it's how
this.
it works.
Yeah, it's all this game is. It's why it's taken so long. There's a ton of R&D and trial and error going on, and that's part of, earlier you said we should know how these professions are working, and honestly, it just kind of goes to show how how much they're sort of building the road as they drive down it. Like,
Yeah,
they're trying to get server meshing working. But to go back to that idea of, why wouldn't they do this forever? I think everybody is sort of forgetting just how many people would be interested in a game like this if it was working. I mean, the amount of people who could play, who would be interested in trying out Star Citizen if it was a fully released and marketable game compared till now is just not even comparable. I
yeah. Like,
100%.
how much money are they leaving off the table? Like, those comments are so stupid,
Yeah,
right?
I don't get that view.
Yeah, it's such a weird and twisted point of view. Like, there's no way. Like, they're leaving millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars on the table by not by things happening the way they've happened over the last year, or last 10 years, excuse me. Like, I've gone back to the same game over and over again in a, like, for this example. Look at something like Valheim. Valheim, not the most complicated game in the world, certainly not the most beautiful game in the world, probably one of the, like, least graphically appealing looking video games that have come out in the more recent years, but they had a decent game that people enjoyed, and they made so much money in
Right.
a 5-month span, where, like, the people talking about, and Fortnite too, things like that, right? The amount of money people talk about coming into Star Citizen, it's not that much. It's not that much. $500 million in 10 years for a project like this, not that much. It really isn't. I know that's insane to think about and say, but look around you. It's not a
And
lot.
it's what? It's $50,000 a year? Wait, no,
No,
I'm sorry. I was thinking I was
definitely not.
completely wrong on that. That's
What is it?
where's my
10
math?
years.
10 years,
We're nearing
500,000.
500 million. So
500 million, yes. Sorry, 50 million a year, not 50,000. I'm
yeah.
like, wait a second, that doesn't seem right. Yeah, I mean,
What do big popular games bring in? They're bringing in a lot more than 50 million a year, I think. So.
right.
And they're not holding the staff that Star Citizen needs to hold to develop the game.
Yeah, that
So
is a whole nother podcast episode that honestly I've been trying to find somebody who has a lot of experience in looking at
business.
the financials of large businesses, because there's so many people always sum it up into like one or two sentences. It's usually some witty comment on a
Yeah.
YouTube video, but people always sum it up as, this is $500 million over 10 years. What are they doing? Why haven't they done this? This is stupid. They're not, they're not doing their job. But I'm like, I need somebody with actual expertise to tell me realistically, what does this look like? Factoring in the fact that there were no studios, that they went through these different events that happened, the pandemic, the various crises, the fact that they had management problems. Like, I really would like to get a better idea of that fully, because there's a lot of talk that's thrown around, but honestly, 500 million over 10 years doesn't seem crazy.
No, it really isn't that nuts when you really break it down, right? And I don't think it's a good enough number to have built the the ability to make these two kind of AAA games all at the same time. And that's why we've hit these bottlenecks that we have,
Yeah. I do think I
sadly.
would expect them to be further than they are. But I think also, given the context of following the game, I understand why they're not.
Yeah, I mean, like you said it perfectly. How much would like the Roberts family, the Calder family, and all of the original people that probably have stakes in the company, including the what is it, 10% stake or something like that from the Montreal studio Turbulent, right? Like when they sit around in a board meeting room, like there's no chance that they don't want this game to be like incredibly playable now and bringing in new players like constantly hand over fist every day. And then their monetization system is naturally going to bring you to like, oh, maybe I should buy a prospector, right? Maybe I should buy a really big cargo ship or something that's very
Hmm.
expensive. So the amount of money that could be made to not only like make Chris Roberts' dream come alive, but just if you really think that they're that malicious, the amount of money that they can make would be like the runaway with all the money type of money, where I don't necessarily think that that's what's happening now, because I've never heard of a developer at the company complaining about not getting paid, right?
Right.
Paychecks come every time. So your money isn't going in Chris Roberts' pocket, at least not as much as people make it out to be.
His
I'm sure he's
yachts.
paying himself. Dude, they're paying themselves more than they should, I think. I think most people who start a business usually don't take a paycheck, right? Or suffer for a while.
Hmm.
And I don't think that they suffered maybe as much as they would have, as most people who start companies do. Okay, that's probably true, but at the same time, I don't think that they're being like incredibly malicious with the money or anything like that. So I think they're actively working towards to like bring it full circle to the game that we play today. I actively think that they care about the game that we play today. I just think that unfortunately the goal is Squadron 42, so they have as many people as they can, without you know having Squadron 42 in never-ending development,
Yeah.
caring about the game that we play today.
Yeah. The conversation's definitely changed. It's
100%.
there are still obviously the comments and stuff that come around, but most of the time now it's gone from, hey, they're not building anything here, this is a scam, it's not going to happen, to now,
Yeah.
well, okay, it seems like they're building something and it's working, but it's taking forever and it's pretty glitchy, which is
Yeah.
not perfect, but that's progress on the conversation. And I think anybody who's following the game actively can see what's going on, see kind of at least the gist of where it's headed over the next couple of years, and can make an educated decision for themselves as to whether they're actually going to be interested in it or not. And I don't think that was really true a few years ago.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. And that's where like my whole kind of tune has changed a lot recently is I'm way more comfortable, and I've said this so many times. I'm way more comfortable being patient with what we have in the game now, and the direction that it's going, than I ever was, because I first off, I can kind of see the near future, what the experience might be like, and I'm more comfortable with it. And also, I just feel like the focus is actually on the video game and not on the system or the the art or the foundational stuff, like, oh, we need this tech, or oh, we need this pipeline, or oh, it's so much less of the conversation than especially like in the last 6 months, probably more than anything than ever. It's there's so much focus on quality of life and in-game experiences than ever before, and like, how can you complain about that?
To be honest, that sounds like a pretty good short term story for CIG. Like
Yeah, it's
they,
okay. There's
I
still a ways
there,
to go, I think.
yeah, there's a ways to go, but like that, honestly, morale's been dipping for the last few years, especially with the way Citizen Con went these last couple of years, and the fact that somebody like you, or and I'm sure there's other people who feel similar to you, are kind of seeing a different vibe in terms of their development, that builds a little more confidence back, I think is a really, really important thing that they needed to do.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Like, I still like I think we talked about this before. I don't think we said it on the podcast. I still have very little confidence in the project. But like,
It's gone from none
it's
to
hard.
very little.
Well, yeah, it's hard to have confidence um in a thing that doesn't exist. So it's like, they still have to prove out that, I mean, dude, Star Citizen doesn't have like the most basic things that every MMO has, right? Like, even like, we can't even trade items with each other. There's so many like just basic things that you would take for granted in every other video game, that since this is being developed at the same time, we don't even have.
You don't
So
trade that
how do we
weapon. You
know?
go buy another one.
Yeah, exactly, right? So like, how do we even know if this game is going to be fun yet?
Hopes and
It's
dreams,
so
baby.
hard to say. That's all we got. And I'm still there. I'm still hoping and dreaming. But the thing is like, how can you be confident in them when they have not given you a single reason to instill like, they've given me nothing to instill confidence in yet. Cuz I can't instill confidence in like the mining mechanic. I like the idea of it, or but I can't instill the confidence in it until I see, like, okay, well, what do I do with the ore? How do I craft it into something? How do I use it? Like, all those basic working game things that you would see in most other games is like, I'm sorry, but if I'm just mining ore just to sell it, that is the most uninteresting game I've ever played. So it's got so much potential. It's just, will they realize that potential? Nobody knows. And that's where
Hmm.
I stand, is like, how can I have confidence if we're in this like really still a very unknown state with the game? But like, you and I talked about, man, do they have a canvas, right? And that's like the big thing, is that canvas is so pretty and so big and has so much potential, that we're all kind of sitting back, instead of leaning forward on our couch, we're kind of sitting back and waiting for something to lean forward for. That's how I feel, at least.
Hmm. That canvas that's really what gives me the confidence. I will say this: there are certain areas where I'm still not fully convinced. Gameplay, obviously, being the most. The
Yeah.
medical system did make me feel better about how they're going to try and tackle these things. It's not perfect, but it's good. I like what they did with it.
It's
And
passable for now, right?
yeah, it's a
We need a
good
lot more
base layer.
passable for now
Yeah,
things.
and hacking is another one that I was worried about, because you could just do so many different things with hacking in these games. It's ridiculous. But the way that they sound like they're going about it also sounds something that's pretty interesting to me. So I would say it's the base layers build my confidence, but with you, I'm not so sure about their more kind of integral MMO aspects, like crafting, like you said, or like the different jobs like data transfer and stuff like that. So,
I mean, think of it in the most like basic way possible. Without meshing and without many people in one place, uh, there's so many aspects of the game that will play so differently. Cargo hauling, mining, PvP, general, like, just think about like going to Kovalex to do a mission there. If you're in a location with hundreds or however many people, it, there's so much that still needs to happen that's planned that are so monumental in the way that they would change the game that it's hard to look at the experience that you have today and make any sort of proclamations or um, like having any ideas of what the game may play like in future. Like we're all, it's still so much guessing
Yeah.
because and they have this massive advantage of where, and they always talk about this advantage of they're going to see how it plays out and then they can adjust,
Yeah.
and that's good instead of just throwing the game out there and people being like, well, that game sucked, look, Fallout 76, Fallout
That's
76 had the opportunities that Star Citizen did. It would probably be a pretty popular game still these days, I would imagine.
that is why that's another reason that I have a good amount of confidence is that they have this luxury of being able to just develop a system and then throw it at thousands of players and be like, is it good? And then if we're like collectively 70% like, yeah, it's passable, they're like, okay, cool. But
Yeah.
as long as they can do that, I know that I'm not going to absolutely hate anything. I mean, yeah, it's not like I can shift the company away from something if I don't like it, but like I at least know that it has like a certain group of people like it. None of these gameplay aspects are going to be just god awful. At least I hope they would be able to pivot.
Yeah. And
But
that's the kind of blessing and the curse of Star Citizen, I think, is
right,
they have that advantage, but at the same time, I think they because of that, I think that they look at the live servers or even the PTU servers s- almost like a pure alpha when the game is not a pure alpha. It's a live service alpha. It's a whole new thing that's never been done before.
right, and that
And
goes
I think that they lean too far on the alpha side with a lot of the features that they put in. I mean, inventory, I'm sorry. That's I just think for me personally that's unacceptable to be in the state that it's in now, as well as the state that it was in after what needed a little bit more polish for 3 more months. And I think that again that comes down to those guys, because we saw those guys on SCL this week. Those guys are on Squadron 42. Those guys are not on Star Citizen anymore. So I think we're going to be stuck with it for a little while. They mentioned some fixes and some additions that they would like to make, but with no timelines on when they're going to make them, like the move all and that kind of stuff.
yeah,
But the that's the one thing that I do still get on my soapbox and get very upset about is you have like CIG has something special, and I think sometimes they cannibalize it themselves by being totally comfortable putting out something that's barely passable, if passable at all.
yeah, and I think poetically headed back towards our main topic off of that
Hmm.
sentence, CIG focuses a lot on the game ahead, the game that's being made. And while they've
Yep.
gotten better in recent years at focusing more on the game that's being played, it sounds like, at least, according to you and according to many people, we'd really like to see them start to focus more on that because it's become clear to everyone that this is the long run
Yeah.
and we
And
got
we're
to get
in it
used to
for
it.
the long run. Like even people like myself, we're in it for the long run. Only if you respect me and my time as well. And the time that a lot of us has put into to the experience. And I think one of the biggest issues and the things that are getting a lot better that I mentioned earlier is, if I give you feedback in 315, I expect that feedback to be acted upon in 316. I don't expect it to be acted upon in 320.
Hmm.
That's what had been happening for a long time and still happens to some extent because, like, I don't know, there's some issues with cargo, let's say, and yeah, guys, we're gonna wait for the cargo refactor. There's some issues with the Moby Glass star map, right? Yeah, guys, you know what? It's gonna sit there for a little while because we're completely redoing it.
Been kicking that can
Those
for
things
4 years.
exactly, right? And that's kind of a pain, but at the same time, that's where this year feels different
Yeah.
is they've made some, or I guess last year and is where it kind of started, right? The 30K fixes, if you have a 30K and you have cargo in your ship, you get it back, right? Those kind of things are things that CIG would not do normally, because they would say, you know what, we have a fix for that later. We're not spending any development time on it now because we don't want to waste time. And I think now that they're realizing that the product that's out there is getting passable, is you need to support that product and have it be a live service. And
Yeah.
they're doing a lot more of that. And that's something that is, I'm happy to see. I don't
Yeah.
think I'm satisfied yet, and I don't know if I'll ever be satisfied, because we all want something different out of the game. We all want it to be very special, but
It's
I'm a
a
lot more
start.
satisfied.
It's a
Yeah.
start. It's phase 4. I keep trying to coin the name, but I honestly feel like they've moved on to a different phase of development than where they were before last
Yeah.
year.
I think post meshing is when it'll be
Yeah,
a phase
it'll be
4.
solidified.
Because I
Yeah.
think there's a lot of people that are still, a lot of teams that are just doing server mesh prep type work rather than doing the actual work that they would like to put out there, the creative game design type stuff. Like a mission team, for example. I would imagine that they're just doing a lot of server mesh prep than actually. We didn't get any mission updates in 3.17, right? So what were they doing? My guess would be that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, working on some of the new stuff we were reading about in the monthly report.
exactly.
Yeah.
So it comes down to that kind of stuff. Is I think that's when it'll be like phase 4 is they have this foundational tech in, and hopefully that's the last thing they need for it to be a bit of an MMO, and then the creative side of the game can start to have its juices flow.
We're all holding our breath, hoping that is the case.
Yes, sir.
We will see. All right, man. But this has been a heck of a talk. I think this is probably the longest episode so far. So thank you for joining me for that.
I went on
That's a good one.
some tirades. I apologize.
No, it's cool. I got to find out a little bit more about why SaltEMike's a little less salty.
Yeah.
It's always good fun, man.
And now the YouTube comments are calling me a shill. I work for the company.
You get
All that,
paid.
all the fun stuff. Oh yeah. I'm Chris Roberts is my dad.
Oh,
All sorts of things like that.
he's my
Yeah, it's
dad, and
great.
he just bought EA. And he's going to ban you. All right, man. Why don't you tell everybody where they can find your content, though, your streams and your YouTube videos?
SaltEMike everywhere with an E instead of a Y. And yeah, as far as that stuff goes, I don't have anything too special coming up. But yeah, SaltEMike on all socials. I don't think I have it on TikTok or anything, but yeah, I don't. YouTube, Twitch, Twitter. Those are the places I live.
Chill, man. Yeah, I've been enjoying Star Citizen Twitter. I've curated my stream, so I only really see all the nerdy stuff, and I just I have my rants. It's good fun.
Oh yeah, it's getting a lot better.
Yeah. All right, everybody else. Thank you so much for listening in on podcast platforms, if you are, or watching this on YouTube. Our two logos sitting and talking to each other for an hour and a half. If you would like to listen or watch this, or rather, I guess, just listen to this ad-free, it's completely supported by my supporters on any of our platforms, Apple, Amazon, Spotify, Anchor. And also, our supporters are able to come in and listen to the episode free. So we have, 7-8 people right now who are sitting in the channel listening to the podcast. Anybody who is a supporter on any of those platforms that, get named all the time, you can come in and join us. But I'd like to thank everybody for being here to watch this episode 47. We got a lot of fun stuff coming up in the lead up to Invictus Week. So make sure to subscribe, maybe leave a review if you liked it. And I will see you guys all next week. Bye.